guys. Hopefully we on air. I don't know. Let's see if we on air because well, we did have some extreme difficulty, and let's see if we on air. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we're on air. Great. I can see myself. That's absolutely fantastic. Okay, guys, yeah, technical difficulties. Zara, thank you very much, Zara, for holding.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay, guys. Everyone who's already with us, we had technical difficulty. I don't know what really happened, but we don't have any difficulty now. So we'll start. We start our broadcasting. Sorry, almost 15 minutes late. I'm really sorry. Never happened before, but there is a first time for everything. Okay, so we'll do it kind of quickly. Okay, we have our speaker Randy Milanovic from Canada. Randy done a couple of things with us and kind of a regular guest. And well, I can't call him guest. He's a regular contributor because whilst everybody listening, he's typing. He types extremely fast and well. Okay, we have Peter Haisley from New Zealand. New Zealand is so fast, so for Peter it took 10 minutes to actually adjust audio. So it's how fun New Zealand is. So he's smiling, and he's smiling. Why? Because 10 minutes ago I told him a joke. Okay, so we have Muammar Mujevic from Croatia and United Kingdom. So managed to be in these two places at the same time. We have extraordinary gentlemen here. Okay, we have Marty Tascona and Muammar Mujevic, a personal guest, Randy's personal guests. So, Marty, you're from Canada as well, are you?
I am indeed here in Calgary as well. So
yeah, okay, great. So we have two Canadians. We have American. We have American here. Zara, our regular. I'm trying to do it very fast because we already 15 minutes. So Zara is always here. So I don't really have to introduce Zara to everyone. Okay, but Zara is a writer and semantic writing mostly. And we have another guest today, is Kate. Kate, she's from Ukraine. She's Ukraine, but she's moving west. So it's kind of very funny. This is one person who lives in two places at the same time. One person from the moon, basically. As far we have two Canadians and well, minority, and we have minority. Here, which is represented by Zara Antaya. Okay, guys, we are talking about double. Not Randy. What we're gonna talk about? Tell us.
Well, this talk is called Multiple Personality Reorder, and it's in reference to designing web pages for multiple personas. In this case today, we're going to talk about dual personas, or two of them. We know that quite often people come to a site or come to a page, there are two different types. We're going to talk about those two different types, and we're going to talk about some of the strategies that we deploy at Kayak on being able to communicate with two different types of people on the same web page. So as soon as you're ready, I'm ready.
Yeah,
so
okay, Randy, yeah, I guess
we will
have this pre-presentation chat. I wasted all the time for the technical. Okay, it's all yours, Randy.
Yeah, I was thinking also if anybody wants to join the conversation, I'd love to have it as a conversation and not just as a presentation. So if you see anything, have any questions or whatnot, please jump right in, okay? All right, maybe on that cue, I can start sharing my screen. All good, Anton?
Yeah, I can see you so far.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to go onto my screen share. And if you can just confirm that you can see that.
Absolutely.
All good?
Yes.
Good. So now you can't see me, you can just see the screen, so that makes it all funner for me. Okay, guys. So once again, I'm going to talk about designing web pages for personas. You'll notice in my title screen I say B2B. We can accept that as B2B, or really just a more complex sales process, or even a higher ticket price item where it takes a little bit more information and whatnot to convince people that you're the right option for them. So what I'm going to do then now is going to go in and just ask about who we're designing our website for. So a lot of people want a new website or new website design, but do they base it on sites they like? Do they base it on what their competitors are doing? Do they hire designers? Do they do it themselves? Really, the question is, how do you know what to do or how to do it? And so you're not wasting money and actually building something that will help you build your business. Well, I look at this and I say, well, it's easy. You basically stop. You don't worry about design right away. You look at who it is that's actually visiting your website. So just so you know, guys, I hear a lot of beeps, and so if anything's happening technically, please let me know. All right. In the B2B or consultative sales process, really there's one person or web visitor make a decision in isolation. That's why we should be thinking about persona pairs. So a pair, from my perspective, is your decision maker that everybody knows about. The thing about decision makers is they don't have a lot of time to do research. So they rarely visit more than a handful of pages on any website, and their time on page is quite low, just because their time is limited. Quite often, top of the page or above the fold, if that exists, we're going to reach out to Momar in a little bit and ask them about that. It is potentially the perfect place to put more of an executive summary or marketing messages that appeal to decision makers, keeping it short and to the point and on topic in respect of their time. If your product or service is a quick sale or impulse buy or anything like that, or you know, sneakers or yo-yos or something like that, then this is the person who you're talking to. It's the shopper. It's very much a transactional thing. They're looking for it. They've likely been influenced by branding. They're looking for it. They're looking for the best price, the availability. That's not the person we're talking about today. The person we're talking about today is the researcher, also known as the influencer on that decision maker. So if you can imagine, if you thought about it for a moment, and you just thought about the last time you made a large price or complex purchase decision, chances are somebody was in that decision making with you. Could have been a spouse, could have been a coworker, could have been a colleague, or even a competitor or peer who prompted you to make a purchase or decide on something. So the idea is we get to know who those people are, and we think about them as somebody who has a little bit more time to go through and research and read more content. Now, what's kind of interesting about this is we think about the decision maker looking at above the fold or the top portion of the page and it's kind of skimming over it quickly. That researcher will look lower. And not only will they look lower, but there's a good chance that they're going to consume and consume and consume. And as they do that, as they're clicking into more information, going to more pages, downloading content, and perhaps even reaching out to you or following you in social, what's actually happening is they're becoming very interested and committed to you and potentially your services or products. Now, what's kind of nice about that is what's happening is we're creating a champion inside the organization who then has an opportunity to influence that decision maker who could come back and make the purchase. So from our perspective, we really believe in designing our pages for both of those types of visitors and providing them with the answers that they're looking for. So let's go take a look at some of the characteristics that we see in the different personas. And by the way, please don't read anything into the male-female on this. It could be interchangeable, of course. Okay, so on our decision maker side, they're more transactional minded. Our influencer side, they're more consultative minded. They want more information, they want to learn more, they're going to ask why or ask how, whereas that transactional one is more likely to just say how much and when. Okay. When it comes to content, the decision maker is very likely going to be a skimmer, zipping through your content, not hitting a lot of pages, whereas the influencer or researcher is going to keep diving and keep digging. And as a matter of fact, we see this all the time in our own site. We have about 700 pages on our site, and it's not uncommon for us to see, say, a marketing manager or whatnot hit 60 to 100 pages in a research session on our site before reaching out. And when they reach out, or they have their decision maker reach out, it's very likely that the sale's already done. We just basically, how they say, it's ours to lose at that point. And again, to go back to the above and below the fold, maybe this would be a good time to throw out that question to Mamer about whether or not the fold even exists when it comes to a web page. And if so, perhaps maybe some of the best ways to deal with that.
Well, I personally don't think it exists. I think it used to exist at some point because a lot of content was just thrown at the web page, and you had to get the best portions that you wanted for the customer, and you had to put it up there because you were afraid he wouldn't scroll down and see what's going on. But the problem is that past websites had this idea that you have to put as much content as possible and just blow people's minds. But today, I think that you have to create an incentive for a person to scroll, and most modern websites do that. You create a good copy, you create an interest, and then you make him scroll. And that's basically what we did and try to do with our clients, and we've seen a lot of scrolling to say the least. And people just want to explore. If the site is interesting enough, they'll explore it no matter what. So I don't think the above fold exists at all.
So maybe instead of above and below the fold, it's really a screen size. Whatever fits in that screen that might be visible, even if they're scrolling.
Yeah, sure. But if you create a small part of the first loading screen that has the incentive or the invitation to explore more, it doesn't have to be here sign up or do whatever. Because look at phones, for example. They don't have above and below the fold. I mean, it's different than having the same experience on desktops. So basically, it's non-existent. If the person opens a page and sees interesting content, he will scroll, he will find the content that is interesting for him, and then he'll either sign up, buy the product, or whatever. So I think it's it's more like the starting point of real sales that we usually do, you create interest, you create attention, interest, desire, and then action. It doesn't have to be everything crammed up in the first loading screen up top. So it doesn't have to be.
Gotcha. So visuals, headlines, good content, keep them scrolling.
Yeah, good copy. Just tell them why they're there, and then they'll say, all right, this could be for me. So and they'll start exploring and start scrolling.
Sure, I can buy that, and I'm even happy to adjust that and perhaps even talk about that when I do my next version of this presentation. Appreciate that, Mamer. Okay, I'm going to add one more element on this one, which was visits minimal pages, visits multiple pages, multiple times. So that's the biggest difference that we see in our visitors when we have a decision maker, is this, they only hit a few pages. Versus that researcher or influencer, they are just consuming like crazy, and they may come back several times, even in the same day, and keep looking and looking and looking. And obviously that's for us to know this because we're tracking our visitors, and also it really shows the level of interest and the area of interest too. So it's a great way for us to get some lead intelligence on things.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to dig in a little bit more on that decision maker here. So most often it's a C-suite or B-suite, or even an owner, operator, owner, manager. Generally don't have time for research. They're looking for the big picture benefits. You know, what do I get for the money I'm going to spend and whatnot. They want to know that they're credible, reliable, and perhaps even likable. So are they going to be good to work with? Now, that said, it's not likely the decision maker is the one that's going to be actually working with you. It usually is that other one. It's usually our influencer. So that doesn't mean that influencer / researcher doesn't look for the same thing as well. We find them in and what we do is that they're often the manager of operations. They need to research multiple solutions to a problem. They may be an executive assistant. They may be a marketing manager. They may even be a sales manager. Okay, they're looking for details about how things work to solve their problem. Wants to know that we're credible. Makes a recommendation to that decision maker. They'll be confident in the solution because quite often it's going to help them in their job, help them look better. They're going to champion you because they figure it's going to be as good for them as it is for the company. Again, it's one of those characteristics. One of the things that I just have some notes I'm just going to relay. What I wanted to talk about really was we have a persona creation tool. I don't know if you guys saw that link on the meeting invitation or the meeting notes. It was a link to a persona creation tool that's free that people can use to help define just who's who within their prospects. So I would encourage everybody on this Hangout to go and check that tool out. And I think that we have it. The link is still live on the meeting mention, and perhaps somebody can paste it into the comments. Also, in a little while, we're going to change that link to a download, so be prepared for that. Okay. I want to encourage people to go beyond generalities, like just straight up demographics, and really paint a picture of the real people they need to connect with. So that's how we know really who's the influencer, who's the decision makers, when we understand their motivations, what they feel is trust building or credibility building, those things that go beyond just the age and the income levels and stuff like that. So I would really encourage people to do that. So in a nutshell, really what it comes down to is these individuals have distinctly different intentions about what they need to accomplish or achieve, and if we're aware of what those things are, we're going to have a much more successful website. So I'm going to take you into, now that we have a sense of what those two types of people are, I'm going to take you into how we deal with those people within a website. So maybe this is an opportunity to throw out a question to Marty.
Perfect.
Yeah, Marty, does anything that I've said here resonate at all? Is it totally foreign, or does it make total sense, and has it been part of the sales world before, or does anything connect there for you?
This is all gibberish.
It's all gibberish. Great.
No. No, I'm kidding. There's a lot of crossover into the sales world, and it does raise some questions for me. In the sales, and I'm going to make this, frame it, or start it this way. In the B2B sales world, especially for complex solutions, things that are actually going to change how a company does conducts their business, how they do stuff, there's often many more stakeholders that get involved than a researcher and a single decision maker. Often you have an operations level that gets involved. You do have a KDM or some key decision maker, but generally they're executing on a decision that's already been made, I've seen a lot of an increasing number of B2B decisions turn into what we call a two-tab event, where there's a technical recommendation team and then there's an executive decision team who can write the check and or conduct much deeper due diligence than the folks that got involved in determining whether the product technically would be a good fit. So you'll see a lot of that type of thing. So it's still a two-tab event, but it takes on a different characteristic.
Yeah, I can see that, and I think also it might be a factor too of the business size.
Absolutely. The more complex it is, the larger it is, the more skin there is in the game, the more involved things. Well, and again, it has a lot to do with what the offering is. So if the focus is at a product level and what you sell is an input to that product, you'll typically be more constrained to deal with operational folks and perhaps end users. If it's going to affect a process, then you'll end up with a lot more people focused who are at a middle management level, and then the fight or the discussion is very much about budget, because middle managers are very good at executing, they're very good at and are incented around being able to perform on plan. But if it's going to affect the performance of the business, which is where all the, we'll say the equity value is typically seen or focused, then senior management will get involved. That's what drives their bonuses. That's what drives how they are measured and from a performance standpoint. So size and complexity, number of stakeholders, which may include external shareholders, all come into play in terms of what you need to understand about the folks that you're going to be communicating with or running your sales process with. So it's not different in kind. It's just now you start going from market level down to or into the customer level. And most websites are operating at a market level and need to take a certain distance to get people engaged and say, you know, this group could possibly be the right solution. Let's look further. So
yeah, I think that's right. And as a matter of fact, just for everybody listening, although I'm talking about decision maker and influencer, I'm aware there could be several of each. So hopefully we keep it, or I've kept it simple enough that we just understand that there's more than one. But I love what you're saying, and I love how we know that there are different people. I know that in one project we did recently, we had 3 different decision makers who were also dually influencers, and all 3 had to influence and agree with one another, and it was quite an interesting challenge to solve.
Yeah, that's one of the things that drives me crazy about how so much sales training is conducted. Is it focuses so much in many cases it focuses on training people how to present, as opposed to teaching them how to become extremely good at recognizing decision culture, decision styles, decision processes, and learn how to handle the various ones that may present themselves. And to the extent that salespeople continue to present when they really need to be getting involved with the decision process and understanding it and trying to influence it towards a great decision as opposed to a self-centered outcome. To the extent that they can do that, they tend to be very successful, but that's a minimum, or it's only a few sales professionals are really good at that type of thing.
Thinking on your feet.
Amongst other things, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. By the way, excellent answers. I loved what you were saying there. Thank you. I'm going to pop onto the next screen here. I want to talk about persona flows now, aka going down the rabbit hole. So now this is where the fun part gets is for me. I quite like this part of when we're doing sites is understanding what the decision maker is going to be looking at and how we can prompt next steps versus how the influencer or researcher is interacting with the site and how we can prompt their next steps. So I've got a couple of screens here just to talk through some of the ways that we do that and reasons that we do that. And feel free, as I said earlier, if anybody wants to pop in and comment, they're more than welcome to. All right. So some of the questions that we're concerned with when it comes to designing flow through a site is what's this persona's primary concerns? How will this persona find your website, and or where is their entry point or point of entry? So we know that, for example, if somebody's following you in social and you've shared a blog post, there's a very good chance the blog is the point of entry, whereas if somebody searches in Google, there's just as much a chance that they start on your homepage. Not that those would be exclusively the entry points, but it's just to show that they could be different points. From that point on, we'd like to think of where they go next and how we can prompt them, and there's different strategies that we'll cover in a minute. But the idea is, do we have key pages that answer their primary concerns, and what action will they take, or what action do we want them to take after visiting those pages? So because we know that people will go where they are interested in going, that old-fashioned hierarchy sitemap, I would say, is a bit of an illusion when they're visiting a site, because now they're no longer following a sitemap, they're following their intuition or their instinct or our prompts, aka the rabbit hole. All right, so I'm going to suggest or recommend that we kind of forget about the old-fashioned sitemap, the old-school sitemap, and instead we start thinking about flows. So, for example, decision maker flow. One example might be they come to the home page, they go to your service page to see that you do, what you said what you do. They check out your about page to see if you look trustworthy and capable and credible, and they go and contact you. So that's pretty typical. As a matter of fact, from search, we quite often see people go home straight to contact. That is no research at all. That is purely transactional. And if somebody's doing that and they don't have a researcher, well, I would suggest that you have your work cut out for you, because you're going into sales mode without any pre-qualification. Conversely, if you do have an influencer or researcher, there's a very good chance they've gone from content to content to content to content and so on through your site, wherever we've prompted them or wherever their interest has taken them. Because of that, there's a good chance that they have really brought on, bought into what you're talking about, because otherwise, if they weren't interested in it, they wouldn't be searching that much. So, yeah, I would just say that the researcher flow can be quite continuous. I mean, there's obviously going to be an endpoint where you want them to reach out or contact you, or at least have their decision maker contact you. But really, it's a matter of engagement, not necessarily a matter of go here and sign up now. Unless, of course, they're consuming more content that will help them convince their boss to do their thing. So the idea is creating that champion. All right. With an idea of the persona flow and understanding that that maker is really just skimming the top and going to a contact, we know that that's pretty well a straight up ABC type link strategy or user experience. On the flip side, that researcher is going to be doing a lot more clicking. So we have different tools that we can use at different stages of their clicking, from a link on a page. You can imagine those bars are text, of course. If you imagine somebody's clicking a link within a page, you can assume that they're probably still exploring, poking around, learning, and consuming. These people are not ready to act yet. This is what we consider top of the funnel. Okay. And then we have what we would refer to as a contextual navigation, or a sidebar with a menu in it. The idea in here is that we group related content. So basically, that researcher doesn't have to go very far to find a link on the related or more information, and ideally they can go through the different options in there and see what's related to one another. And even in a site like the size of ours, of 700 plus pages, we can actually contain them within those 5 or 6 pages that are relevant to them by using the contextual navigation. Of course, everybody has seen CTAs, visuals. Sometimes they're square, sometimes they're banners. Personally, I don't tend to do banners because they look too much like the banner ads of old, and people tend to avoid them. Whereas if you had an interesting square or whatnot, people tend to engage with them more. When you put a button on it, and that's what this is up here is a button, is we're telling them what they're going to get and how to get it. And even though the whole image is clickable, there's a very good likelihood that they actually push the button as their target. And we actually see that all the time with heat maps. So if you could imagine the link within text is people still wandering around, very low intent to do anything. You have a contextual navigation. There's a bit of a higher intent. Now they're looking at a grouping of content that makes sense to work together. And then we'll get to a CTA. Now we have an actionable thing, which is now a download or a tool or a sign up and that kind of thing. I hear a bit of a voice. Is there somebody trying to comment?
No.
No? Okay. I heard there's a ghost in the machine. All right, so I would consider this the higher level or deeper in the middle of the funnel type thing, where that researcher now is getting a download on that related topic, and they're willing to pay for that download with their contact details. You know, at least a first name and an email, and perhaps further deeper down, maybe more details like their company or their website address or something like that. So middle of the funnel type stuff can definitely be graduated or different levels. And then at what I would consider the bottom of the funnel is straight up contacts, and we reserve buttons in our business for this. So whether it's let's talk, contact me, that kind of thing. So so I've just shared 4 of the tools or techniques or strategies that we could have, and they're related to the point in what I would consider their buyer's journey or through their own qualification. I would say that at the bottom here, when somebody clicks that Let's Talk button, they are signaling that they're entirely marketing qualified. The form that they fill out or the phone number they call at this point then should go directly to sales for further sales qualification. And there we go, back to this one again. In a nutshell, most successful business websites, especially that we've done, figured how to talk to both sides of the persona pairs for each product and each service, and that would lead into what Marty was saying before about a more complex process. Realize the pair could easily be a trio, a quartet, or more, and that's on a per product, per service basis. I'm going to, my next screen, I actually have a download and a tool that I'm going to present. Maybe before we do that, we have an opportunity to ask another question. Maybe for Zara, have you considered writing, or have you written for dual personas on a single page before in all the work that you've done?
I have.
You have? I thought you would.
Yeah, I have. I actually in a couple of instances, it just happens to be that both of them were in travel-related services. And one very high-end planning and personalized service, and event planning. I mean, it was just very comprehensive, high-end travel service. And so very often for the people who actually want the services, we have just exactly what you explained. Somebody is doing the research for a high-level executive, royalty, whoever it may be, who's actually going to be purchasing the whole package. But the people who are researching all the services and, you know, will the bodyguards be armed or not, and, you know,
Yeah.
what is the security at the villa and that sort of thing, the walking people through those details so they can present to the person who's actually going to make the purchase, make the reservation, use the service, and pay for it, you know, to get them to connect. So yes, I have, and that's why I was so excited to be here today, Randy. I think it's really important to consider everybody who's involved in the process, and that was one of the reasons that I did a lot of writing for this website, because the old site was addressing the decision maker only, and that it is not, because that's the ultimate client. You know, that's how many people perceive this. You know, so get to that guy who has the money or makes the decision, but there's so many steps in between, and those people have the same as in a business. They have staff that do things, and so they're making, that staff is doing the research. That staff is actually arranging, say, the details of a private party, you know, who the DJ is going to be and what the flowers are going to be and all that sort of thing. So it's the same process. So yes, I have.
That's excellent to hear, and I love the bodyguard and whatnot reference. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's things most people don't think about, you know.
That's right, and you, just like you said, your predecessor there had been focusing just on the decision maker, and I see that all the time, and pretty well every website I see is the decision maker is always the focus, and you know, there is a time, I believe, where it is decision maker when there's a shorter sales cycle, a more impulsive buy, or there it is, it's available type thing, or locally grown, that kind of thing. But when there's some sort of consultative or more complex sale, I think we really have to understand who everybody is in that process. So glad to hear that you've been seeing that too. I think it's the biggest...
I want to emphasize how important this information is that you are imparting, especially for B2B. I mentioned earlier that I was researching B2B websites for software as a service, and there were a couple that were like, we're great, we do this, buy here. That was it. I'm like, you know, how do you expect to convince anybody to do this?
Yeah. Well, you know, I think it's the biggest single fail that that local business has, is that they just focus on the decision maker, and they don't realize the cost to the loyalty and buy-in and whatnot that you could be having. So yeah, I appreciate that you're adding that. If I could throw a question to Peter. Are you ready, Peter? Is Peter still on the line, guys?
Yes, but he's muted.
He's muted. Tell him to unmute. Okay, or ask him.
Yeah, I'm muted now. So
okay, there we go. Okay, so Peter, you have a tool called Sice.
Yes.
It's a pretty cool tool.
Yeah.
When we're adding all this content to a page, are we improving or not on the semantic value of a page?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the semantic side of it is very vital, actually, in building what is like long tail queries, especially these days. And you'll find people are entering the site. It's an interesting thing. It's a time thing. I think the most important thing is you have to be able to do research that you can use effectively, especially in isolating the needs of the client, so or the visitors to the site. So what I've found is, you know, in talking about your concept particularly, it's a time issue. So what we tend to do is make a synopsis, and decision makers will find a synopsis a lot easier to deal to, and if that's linked to particular parts of the page. Or I use a lot of anchor links especially on long content, and so I know it's an old thing, but it actually works particularly well for people navigating to what the information they want, rather than going to a sidebar, which is a secondary action. So it tends to be a subconscious reaction that you can get quickly to some information. As far as the SICE tool is concerned, it isolates the needs. So I'll look at, I'll run it through several sites that are leading authority sites. It'll trawl that information, and it'll isolate the needs of the visitor. Then the case is of writing to those needs. So I find the tool particularly useful for that particular purpose. It's
from your view, when we're writing to two different people, and essentially, I would say at the end of the decision maker, we're really then transitioning in conversation to the influencer or researcher. Would you consider that a positive or a negative from a semantic perspective?
Well, I tend to write generally, because I think that the decision makers, even though we know we do it ourselves, we all cherry pick websites, so we're looking for information. What I make sure is if they cherry pick in different positions or different areas, they're going to get something that is totally unique. So I structure the sites conceptually. So because SICE creates conceptual sets and clusters of information, you tend to put it very logically into those conceptual sets. And so it means that if someone's wanting to find specific information, I make very specific information more regularly, and I make that more concise. So in other words, it's not wordy, it's information that people can get. And even for influencers, I think that that's useful. I don't think we need to write incredibly long copy. It's like all good copy needs to be cut down and made very obvious for people to read.
Sure, and I think what I'm referring to when we're on a page level, I'm not talking about blog level, of course. Those can be as long as you like. When we're on a page, I tend to keep it about a page, maybe 2 pages in length, or 800 to 1,000 words. I don't tend to go too much over that. And I use generally what we look at is that really the first view, maybe I won't call it above the fold, I'll call it the first view. And generally we try to make sure that decision makers' needs are met in there. Are we available? Are we credible? Can I make contact? That kind of stuff. And a little bit of information. And then when we're going down the page, then we're basically elaborating a little bit more on that. So the researcher can get a few details. So I was in my back of my mind, I'm thinking the additional words are making the site perhaps more searchable, even on the longer tail, and so that's in my mind. I don't know if that's actually true, though.
I have a question for Peter, and that is about the synopsis. Could you go over that again?
Well,
Peter?
The synopsis I gain from the SICE tool. So it trawls through the information, it simplifies the information, it gets the core issues and the core elements of what the person's talking about. And obviously, if you've trawled authority sites, you're going to get the overview of all of the value, and it's sort of like putting gold through the through the furnace. It gets better and better and better, and it's because it's pattern based. It tends to be very related, and language patterns in that sense. And so that synopsis is very easy for me to create. Whereas for others, I can imagine it could be rather difficult because you're trying to take a lot of information and take it down into a smaller, more simple aspect. And so
then,
and
essentially, it's matching Randy's concept of the main basic points: the credibility, the reliability, and anything else that comes up in the SICE search. That's there in that very first introductory part. Yeah.
That's right.
Here it is. Here's
Yeah,
where
that's
we are. Here's what you do. Here's how we solve your problem, and then the elaboration comes later. Is that correct?
exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. I think what I'd like to do is.
I think. Hold on.
Yeah.
Kate has a question.
Hi, Kate.
Question, please.
Yeah, because Randy is on a full screen mode. You understand? He only can see his own slide and nothing else. So you have to use your microphone now.
That's okay. Randy, can I ask you? First of all, thank you very much. You are highlighting a very interesting topic. And
Thank you.
it's even more interesting because there are lots of automation tools that helps to actually use the insights that you are talking about. So what I'm asking now you is, have you ever tried some of them? For example, have you ever tried any of the tools that allows us to identify, due to the behavior on the website, to identify whether we are talking with influencer or with the decision maker, and change the website actually due to the person you are seeing?
Not in that sense. What I've done is I've used tools, for example, to like Atomic Reach and Hemingway, just to check on language and whatnot. But generally, it's through conversations with clients and their stakeholders to get a sense of, right down to the sales and even customers, to get a sense of what really matters to each of them, and then we try to write and talk to those topics.
So you've never used the smart CMS, for example, like Magenta, which could be integrated together with exact target and really reflect the interface the person is seeing due to
yeah, okay, now I understand. So yeah, we're actually a HubSpot site ourselves, so we do get all sorts of lead intelligence, how people are using the site, who it is. We do research, we check them out. If somebody comes to our site and then we see a pattern, the patterns are pretty easy to recognize once you start seeing them. I know if somebody comes off of search, goes to my home page, looks at maybe one other page and goes straight to my contact page, I know they've got no information on us, or perhaps they're a referral, and so I've got to do my research before I reach out to them. Conversely, if somebody comes to our site, consumes a lot of information in a certain area of the site, I can see where they come from, I will actually go out and I will research their social profiles and everything to get as much data as I can, so that when I make a call, that I essentially know what the topic's going to be, so there's no surprises on my end, and it's pretty straightforward. So we do get tracking data and reporting and whatnot out of HubSpot. Additionally, when we're not on HubSpot and say we're on a WordPress site or something, we'll use a tool called Lead-In, which coincidentally is also developed by HubSpot, but it's free. It's a great tool. So we do use those for tracking and lead intelligence, but really on actual content, we're initially getting information right from our clients and their stakeholders, and then we are testing things like language level and whatnot, using things like Atomic Reach and Hemingway. So those are the types of tools we use. Now, when it comes to automation of these things, I generally like to have real conversations. So I'm not a big automation person, even though I'm in an automation world. I like the personal touch and the insights, and then of course to research those insights and vet them. There's nothing funner for me than to have a big discussion with a client and stakeholders and have a bit of an argument go on, because then you find out what's really true. Those are fun.
Totally with you, but not always we have such an opportunity. For example, the person is not really registered yet, but we know due to his or her behavior that he is a decision maker. So probably in this case it would be hard to reach out, but we can reach them, for example, with automatic ticketing or with any other tool that is not personal in the way we know the name or contact, but pretty personal in terms of a type of communication that is more convenient for this type of personality.
Yeah, generally for the sites that we do, if it's a decision maker that's on our site, we know pretty quickly because they reach out. They actually identify themselves and say, hey, I want to talk. And then we can see what's going on. that a researcher may not be filling out any forms and giving us their data, in which case we're tracking back. Part of our tool set is we have prospects tools, so we can see where people are coming from based on IP address. If we wanted to prospect them, we could go perhaps to LinkedIn and check out the business profile, and from the business profile we could see who the people were that were connected to it, and from that we can see who the most likely people were that were on our site, and from that we can start to connect with people until we find them. So it is possible to do so without knowledge of who they are. But outside of that, I'm not using other tools, no. If you have some that you'd like to suggest, I'd love to hear it.
Probably the topic of the next session.
Sorry, there was a bit of echo there. What was that?
I told that probably that could be a topic of the next session, actually.
Yeah, there you go. Automating the lead intelligence.
Yeah, one
right,
thing
guys.
I'd like to bring
Oh,
in,
yeah, go ahead.
is you can get a digital footprint on people these days, and that software actually goes through and pulls what they're saying on social media and things like that. So that's very useful in this process. So I think it's moving more towards the digital, but I agree with you, it's worth getting information from directly from the client. What I get people to do is just write everything they can think of that they want to say, and then I run it through SICE and get a synopsis of what they're actually after. So
Yeah,
that's quite useful.
we'll have to use your tool a little bit more. I've played around with it, and it's always been an interesting thing, and delightful usually. But the connections that it makes is pretty amazing. So if anybody hasn't tried SICE, perhaps Peter can leave a link in the comments. So that...
Yeah.
Okay, guys, we have a download and a tool. So the download is just something you can go through, and then the idea is just to help you define just the decision maker influencer for one product or service. A fairly simple one, but complex enough to require two people to make that decision. So this PDF on that link will give you an opportunity to just go through and follow that process. Now, if you want to go a little bit bigger, we have a tool. It's free. It's on our site, and there's the address for it as well. And it's a form. You can go through. It's a two-part form, and it does the decision maker and then the influencer, and then you'll get an email on the end of that is a mashup, a story of those two people. So it's quite a lot of fun to do it. So I hope you go ahead and try it out. There's a checkbox on the bottom of it that says, Randy, please contact me, or not. So if you don't want me to look at it, don't want me to contact you, don't check the button. Otherwise, I'm all over it. Okay, I don't know if people can grab that link and post it for me, both of those links. And I'll leave it on the screen for a moment while you have a chance to do that. And again, these are free. Just go ahead and grab them. And Anton,
I put one which I had, so I only download left. I will do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I just have one more screen, and I'll just wait for you to make sure that you have it before I change screens. And just so you know, guys, I will also post a copy of the presentation, okay? And I know Anton is going to have the video as well.
Yeah, sure.
All right, and if it's okay, I'm just going to go to one more screen, which hopefully gets a couple of tweets. I wonder if I can't send that in the notepad. I'm going to switch away from the screen now and stop my screen sharing and open it up, I guess. Okay, guys. All right.
Okay. We can see you now.
Oh. All right.
Don't worry about
I'm
links.
back.
I'll post all the links on a web page, and I will put eventually video on the right channel because it's on the wrong one, and I'll put your PDF on our landing page. So you don't worry about that. Just go on.
Okay. Hopefully, the stuff I shared was informational and hopefully actionable. And I really appreciate the answers that you guys gave. It made me think a bit, especially Peter. All right, guys. So that's the end of my presentation. I don't know if there's any questions from anybody or for any of the other panelists or anything.
Well, I had a question, Randy. Are you finding when folks are coming to your site, are they more involved in still framing the problem, or are they at a point where they're looking to find a solution?
Yeah, good question. So I get both, but you know what? It seems to depend on where they're coming from. So if I get somebody off a search, thanks to mobile and proximity-based localization, I generally get people who are looking for a deal, looking for something to happen yesterday. They want to be number one on Google, that kind of thing. It can be quite the, let's just say, time waster. Whereas if people are coming in off of other ways, through social media, off of a download or something like that, and they're reaching out to me, they're significantly more motivated to do business with me, and are not as concerned about availability and price so much as product availability. They're more looking at whether or not we can fit them into our schedule, which is really nice problem to have. So generally, it depends where they're coming from. So, I had a post just a couple days ago. Actually, it was on Friday that I posted on LinkedIn and published on my site and whatnot. And it went kind of crazy, and I do mean crazy in a literal sense. It inflamed a number of LinkedIn, I guess you could call them haters, and it kind of took off. So we had, I don't know, 1,200 shares of my article by people who were all ranting. So it was quite an interesting experience. So hopefully I don't get too many of those people contacting me. I feel okay. I can deal with a few. Excitement's good.
Thank you so very much, and thank you, Anton, for having me on the panel today. I have a jam-packed week this week, and I have a course that I'm taking, and I need to go to that class. So thank you very much, and thank you, Randy. That's a really great presentation. Okay,
Thanks for coming. Sorry about this.
There's a question.
Yeah.
I see that we have a question.
Yeah, Randy, we do have a question from audience. If you can make. Are you making an investigation user behavior before creating interface for final user, more or less?
Yeah, absolutely. You know what's kind of surprising is with the number of sites we've done, we find that there's an awful lot of consistent or predictable behavior depending on the type of person that's coming in. So there's a lot of understanding that we have. It's not making assumptions at all, of course, but a lot of commonalities about how people interact with sites. So I would say yes, based on their knowledge and experience, we are going to do things certain ways. We know that people like to read in bite-sized chunks. They don't like big lumps of text. Andy Crestodina last week was saying the very same thing, is there has to be some visual interest, and I think that's exactly what Mamar was saying earlier as well. Some visual interest to that page to draw them in, and good quality. I think that's just natural. I mean, if we fill a page full of copy and don't have any visual interest, no structure, no images, they're not going to stick around. If we don't prompt them to take action, they're not going to take action. So those are pretty well straightforward things. So hopefully that answers the question. If anybody else has anything to add, feel free.
I'd like to add a thing about content. What you just mentioned is when you create good quality content, usually what I hear from my colleagues is that they have to create a lot of content, and they think that the quantity equals quality. And I've seen my clients create this much text with a good image that says everything they wanted to say, and they get feedback from their customers that was amazing. And you could have like 10 pages of text up there with like a bunch of photos, a bunch of call to action, sign up here, do this, do that. And people will just visit this, see all that noise and say, wow, that's like too much. I'm getting the hell out of here. So you need to think about what you're trying to say. So sometimes when I go to and I shake someone's hand and I say, hey, my name is Momer, this is what I do, whatever, and that could get a good point across if I'm really on point with what I'm trying to say. If you're trying to sell someone like for like an hour and a half or trying to get as much content out of yourself to the person, you're going to be out of there. So you have to think about what you're posting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things about having lots and lots of content is people are thinking from an SEO perspective, so they're trying to design for search instead of for their visitor. So absolutely good point. You need to say what you need to say.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, another point that I'd like to make there is the imagery is absolutely vital. So you've got to think about what the imagery is saying, you know, in relationship to this dual persona thing as well.
Yeah.
So there may be different imagery that will affect an influencer more than a decision maker. So it's interesting. There has to be a balance of sorts there as well.
Yeah, I hear that. I was on a site recently that had the animated videos. They looked kind of like a children's television show, but it was on a financial site. And I thought, hey, there's a disconnect there. So instead of attracting me, it actually repelled me. Yeah. Has to be a connection.
I think we have another question. It's in the chat. Randy, if you can read it.
How to build user interface when involved with cognitive perception? Am I to interpret that means intuitiveness, and I'm going to assume that that's what it means. So I think the idea behind the linking tools and whatnot that I was saying, a link versus a button versus a contextual navigation, I think it's just a matter of is it in the right place? Is it appropriately placed? Is it within view? Those kind of things. Is it obviously a next logical step? I think that's probably what we're looking at, including the visuals. Essentially, we want to be as clean and simple, getting from A to B to C as possible.
Goes back to what you're saying about flow, Randy. The flow has to be, you've got to keep their attention and engagement through, resonating with them. And so it's important to have that, structured. And sometimes we write, some people think that you can write creatively, but the structure is just as important as the creative part, because it can, creative writing can ramble a bit, but it's far better to have structure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well. I mean, one of the classes we teach is on even just structuring a blog post. Get those subheads in, get those images in, know where to put those links, provide a call to action inline at the end, just get them as engaged as possible. It used to be quite a surprise when I would see somebody go through our site and read 100 pages. Now I kind of expect it or hope for it, but back in the day, a couple years ago, I thought, wow, those people had nothing better to do but to consume my content, and I was going, hey, I can live with that. That's not a bad thing. If they're on the page that long, they must have an interest in it. Have you? Can I ask? Is everybody tracking their website visitors? Are we doing forms that confirm that tracking? And if you're not, there are so many easy ways to actually do that. That it is totally legitimate and not stalking or anything like that. So, anybody not doing that would like to be doing it? Nobody's saying anything.
Who's going to admit anything?
Well, here's a freebie for everybody. If any website you're on, go ahead and install Lead In. It's an amazing tool. It's free, and it will give you the tracking and whatnot that you need. So use that. Use Lead In. It's fantastic. Tell them I sent you. I'm not going to get a commission, but maybe I'll get a pat on the back. Because it's free. Wait till it's paid, boy. I'll be selling that thing. Yeah. So I think we
Randy?
probably ran our time. Is there, was somebody going to say something? Was that Marty?
Well, yeah, there was just one, I'd made a note, but I'd missed it. Just in the, earlier you had associated the key decision maker or the decision maker with the word transactional. And I found that curious.
Yeah, for me, I just meant shorter funnel, so I can throw in the word transactional.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, shorter funnel because they're not researching. So to me, that would be more transactional in nature.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Time.
Okay, guys, do we have any questions or comments? Yeah, we're kind of running out of time, but yeah, well, obviously it was all technical problem for first 15 minutes. I'm checking our website so far. Well, so far we don't have more questions. So okay, Randy, if somebody who was watching us or who will check a recording want to ask you a question, what's the easiest way to get to put them to you?
Sure, my Twitter account, Kayak360.
Okay, so Twitter would be the easiest way to communicate with you. Okay, guys. Okay, everybody who was watching us, thank you very much for watching us. I'm really extremely sorry for all these technical problems happen. In a couple of days, we will have a Google Q&A. When we will have two Googles at the same time, which I have no idea how it will work. And really positive, our usual Googler and John Mueller. I'm not sure it will work, but it even makes it even more interesting. In 2 days' time, Thursday. Okay, thank you very much for everyone watching us. You guys, you don't go anywhere, please. Couple of minutes more. Thank you, Randy. Thank you, Randy. Thank you, Randy, for excellent presentation. Thank you, Peter, for waking up so early. Thank you, thank you, Muhammad, and thank you, Marty, and thank you, Kate. Thank you, everyone who was watching us. Okay, guys, now you can do something like, "Hi, Mom, I'm on the telly," because we're going off